Well, good evening, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to this opportunity to have join in question and answers and get to know the finalist candidates for Superintendent Director here at Minuteman High School. We appreciate your participation. My name is Kevin Mahoney. I'm the interim Superintendent Director currently, and tonight we'll be meeting Heidi Driscoll. We'll start out by asking Heidi to introduce herself. After that, we'll entertain questions from those of you joining us. And also here with us is Drew O'Connors. He's our Director of Information Technology. He will be unmuting you as your hands go up. And then if you can, once you're unmuted, if you can simply brief introduction, who you are and your affiliation with Minuteman would be much appreciated. So at this time, I'm pleased to turn this over to Heidi Driscoll to introduce herself to you. So Heidi.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm Heidi Driscoll, candidate for superintendent. I'm currently the assistant superintendent for Scituate Public Schools. I'm also a visiting lecturer in the education department at Bridgewater State University. I've been in education for over 20 years. My resume is available online, and my passion is teaching and learning and vocational education in particular. So I'd love to answer any of the questions that you have.
So if you'd like, anyone who wants to ask Heidi a question, please indicate with the hand raise indicator, and we'll be happy to call on you. Questions, comments?
If you'd like to put is the chat on? Can they just put a question in the chat so they don't have to speak out loud if they don't want to?
I believe the chat is on. Yep.
So you're welcome to throw a question or a topic you'd like me to discuss in the chat. Are you sure?
Oh. Beth.
Thank you, Beth.
Hi. Hi, nice to meet you. I hope you hear me okay.
We can.
Are you hearing? Okay, great.
Yes.
I'm doing that thing. I'm using my phone because I'm going to be in transit. I'm first really pleased to see your application for this role. It's clearly incredibly important, and Minuteman is going through a time of extreme growth. I am a parent of a sophomore from Arlington, and
Oh, muted again.
Oh. Sorry, Beth, you got muted again for a second.
I think I did that. Sorry about
You're a
that.
parent of a sophomore.
I am a parent of a sophomore, yes. And we live in Arlington. I'm interested to hear you talk just a little bit about your interest and thoughts and goals for the technical and vocational side of Minuteman. That's the main reason most of us are there, and we're really passionate about the variety of career tracks and the opportunities the school offers. So I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on that.
I guess I don't have any specific plans that I would be in at.
Hi, I guess we had a little technical difficulty. Can I put it on view here?
Yeah.
So what can you hear me? Are we all great? So my goal for the vocational side is I think primarily that we use our space appropriately, and that we can get the most out of this gorgeous building and the other space that we have available on campus. I actually went to a vocational school myself, so I know the value of vocational education and all the different pathways and opportunities it gives you. So I'm super excited. Something I just mentioned to the faculty is I can't wait to be a part of Skills USA. And I know we had a national winner last year. Hopefully we'll have more. I'm super passionate about vocational ed itself. Did that fully answer your question?
There you go.
Oh, great. Okay. If someone, oh, good, there's a hand raised. Do you want me to just
If you
do
want to
this?
drive, go.
Okay.
They should be able to unmute themselves now.
Okay, Erin.
Hi, Heidi. Good afternoon. Welcome. Welcome to your visit today. It's really nice to have the opportunity to join in on a session like this. I wonder if you, my name is Erin Palmer. I am a parent of a sophomore in Acton, and I would just love to hear from you a little bit about your approach, your style around colleagues and really nurturing and cultivating, your team, your teachers, your administrative team. If you just wouldn't mind sharing a little bit around that.
Sure. My approach to leadership is absolutely a collaborative approach. I feel very confident. If you reached out to any of my past colleagues from Taunton Public Schools, Southeastern Regional, or even in Scituate right now, I think that building teams who hold each other to high standards and who support each other to be successful, that's my strength. I think that it makes me sad to think that there are so many teachers who right now need that feeling of support, students too. I hope that I'll be given the opportunity to build that community back that Minuteman's known for.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
My pleasure. All right, Anna.
Oh, hi. I was just getting myself situated, but yeah, so following on that answer, how could you give an example of what you might have in mind for Minuteman, or what ideas do you may be thinking about? Some ways that you've created that collaboration, that kind of community building in the past that could give us more specifics?
Yeah, absolutely. So in my last district, one of the first things I did, I really have to build trust before there's any action. Because if there's no trust between the faculty, the teachers, the school committee, the group, then there really isn't forward action. So what I did in Scituate is before I even started, I had individual meetings with every single administrator, every department chair, anyone who I was working directly with, so I could hear what we should continue doing and what we needed to look at in Scituate. So once I heard those stories, I found some patterns that came from the voices of the people who do the work and live the life day to day. So that summer, we built some professional leadership teams, which there's more information about in my resume if I'm not mistaken, or I could share more anecdotes from the people who participate on these if you'd like. So we created teams for each of these particular areas, like professional development, curriculum acceleration, safety, and we made sure it was not the same group of people over and over again running things. What we did was we took leaders and gave them specialty areas so that they could become experts. We'd have go-to people. And these go-to people were not only the principals, there's 6 principals, but it's also a department chair. It's someone who's in the classroom, and it gives a wider lens for each problem they're trying to tackle. And people then don't get burnt out with meetings. I think it's better to focus on a few things and do them very well than do tons of things to just check boxes. So from the individual meetings to these teams, then we had our administrative retreat, and then those things, I guess, moved forward into the school year. If you look at, I want to say it's the January school committee meeting from Situate, several department chairs and I present on what those teams are and how they positively impacted teachers. One particularly positive outcome was the professional development committee. We went from a committee that people didn't want to be on and the outcomes weren't positive to now there's a cycle of feedback where we have a self-selected model of a wide variety of professional development that's built into chunks that teachers can select. And it was a huge hit and a wonderful transformation based on hearing the stories and the patterns from the staff members.
Thank you. One quick follow-up. So that is one constituency, but you also have students and you have the parents. So what might you do to build trust with those 2 other groups?
Well, that's a great question. So I feel like that's a whole district's job, not one individual person. So something that we did do right on the heels of building those committees during that same retreat was we had a 100% communication goal. So we had every single, our goal was so that every single family would have personal outreach by October 1st from a staff member. So we could hear the stories, not only welcome them to the school, but also to say, hey, what is the beginning of your year like? Talk to us personally and make that connection. And each building did it differently, but that was step one. Another entire piece to something that has been happening for 2.5 years there is the regular communication. Our strategies for communication have changed to make sure that people are actually reading and engaging with the information we're putting out, taking advantage of opportunities. Can I admit whoever's in the waiting room here? Okay.
Sorry, thank you.
No problem. Admitting all. So that was a game changer to get more positive information out there and to change how we communicate. You're welcome. I see Beth's hand up.
Hi, thank you. I hope, once again, I'm just going to check you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you, Beth.
Great. Thank you for entertaining another question from me. I'm curious, with Minuteman being a single school and a single school district, could you talk a little bit about how you view the superintendent role in partnership with the principal and kind of following on the prior questions that you received around building connection with families and students. So how you view your role, the principal's role in a one school district.
Well, I worked at Southeastern Regional for 13 years, which is a vocational technical school district. Same setup that we have here. Being in a larger school district for 2.5 years, this is new for me as a central office experience. So at Southeastern Regional, the same as in Minuteman, I see the principal as a partner with the superintendent. I do think that the principal's hands-on role day to day is definitely student-based, less business-based. But I think communication has to come from a team. So it isn't two separate feelings, if you will. There needs to be a vision of Minuteman as a school district, as one school, that both the principal and the superintendent, I guess, put forward with their communications and relationships with students and teachers and families. Something that I would need to know from parents. So right now, I need to hear the stories about, do you get a newsletter? Do you read the Instagram post? How do you get your information? Do you have personal interaction with teachers and with the principal? Those kinds of things I don't know. So I feel like my primary job is to find those things out if I'm lucky enough to be selected to serve Minuteman, because those are huge pieces. And I think it's important for me to take the time to establish some institutional knowledge, make sure that I'm connecting with people who have that institutional knowledge so we can elevate and sustain the best parts of practice at Minuteman. All right, thank you. I appreciate you guys putting stuff in the chat. Thank you for doing that. So I know. Claudia?
Hi, let me
Hi,
see
Claudia.
there. Hi. Thank you. I think some of the things you were asking about parents, we have a parent association. There is a lot of things that we do to be connected with the teachers and people in charge. My question was going to be about, as you might know, we have a large percentage, and I couldn't get the right number, but it's probably close to 40% of students on special education, on IEPs. And I wanted to get your, what your thoughts are of your experience on working with population that has a high percentage of students supported by special services. So thank you.
Thank you for asking. I do have a special education administrator's license. When I was a grad student, I did my internship under the guidance of the special education department at Bridgewater. And my experience has been majority through Southeastern Regional, which also has a relatively high population of special education students. I'm very comfortable with supporting teachers to determine what supports we need to provide at our school. I hear here we have some academic support that's offered for executive function. Sorry, I need to let somebody into the waiting room here. Okay. We have academic support, which sounds like it focuses on executive function, helping kids stay organized and be on top of their responsibilities to help them develop those skills. I'm not familiar with every individual's IEP, but from what I hear, even though the number is high, there are lots of supports in place here that are meeting the students' needs. Statistically, I did look up the academic achievement for the special education student population itself, and the percentile achievement ranking is very impressive. I have rarely seen in math and English like an average score of 500, like meets the standard, and you have that here. You have very high achievement, and I'm sure that's due to the excellent teaching and the supports that you have in place for your kiddos. Does that fully answer your question?
Thanks. I just wanted to know your thoughts of your and your experience, and you told us some things. Thanks.
Okay, you're welcome. If you don't feel comfortable raising your hand, anyone is more than welcome to just type a question or a topic in the chat that you'd like me to address. Well, while you're thinking, I guess I can tell you a little bit more about myself. In addition to my experience in Scituate, I've been a high school English teacher. I've been a department chair. I've been an elementary school principal. I'm a mother of three, one middle school and two high school students. And education and teaching is my absolute passion and will continue to be. And I hope that you will consider allowing me to join the Minuteman community. Oh, here. We have another one in the chat. What draws you to Minuteman specifically? Minuteman specifically, I absolutely am impressed with the achievement that you already have established here. I'm very drawn to your completed brand new gorgeous building. And I feel like your staff has limitless potential. And I would love to come here and help build or rebuild the culture. That is what draws me to Minuteman. Oh, Len, you're welcome, Beth.
Hello. Sorry, I joined late, so maybe you may
No
have
problem.
addressed this
That's okay.
question. But so if you did, you can just let me know and I'll watch the video. I wonder if you could talk about a little bit about the balance between the vocational and the technical sides of the school. The majors that have been growing are I think what's typically called the technical majors, robotics and digital engineering and things like that. Yet, obviously the school still has a very solid program in what we sort of call the trades, the vocational programs and automotive, electrical, plumbing, et cetera. How do you see that balance? And as that sort of tension between the two, is if there is a tension there, how do you balance those two sort of different areas?
You mean the balance between the traditional trades and the upcoming, we really
Yeah.
not sure what they are yet. So I'm not sure here if there is a struggle with that. But in my experience, communities need plumbers, electricians, machinists, and it's our job as a vocational technical school to help support our communities and produce the tradespeople of the future. Whether it's through the technical institute, whether it's through the high school, I do think that there needs to be flexibility. If there's a demand for a particular skill or new vocational area, we have to explore that. But I don't see the traditional trades making room or stepping aside for, I don't know, for an AI shop or something like that. I can't see that happening.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I have a question in the chat. Oh, okay. So this question says, can you talk about budget? I'm the parent of a sophomore who is having a great experience. My friend noted that she loves Minuteman and is troubled by the large per pupil cost as compared to our in-town high school. How will we maintain support going forward with a discrepancy in cost per student? So they're always, if you look at all vocational schools, and I'm here with the former businessman, so he can give me a thumbs down if I'm saying this wrong. But we actually get additional funding called Chapter 74 funding because it costs more to run a vocational program. So a comprehensive school like the one where I am now, we get Chapter 70 funding, which is the basic per pupil spending. So if we looked at just what the school does for English, math, science, social studies, some electives, that's one thing. But I was walking in some vocational programs with brand new CNC machines for machining. You have to maintain those for safety, to have up-to-date equipment, to make sure we're training people appropriately for jobs to be employed right now and go on co-op and work in the field. We need current industry standard machinery and supplies. And so that comes from Chapter 74 funding. So I think that if someone is at a comprehensive school, they might not, it is totally different. Because they don't need the machines and the things that we do, that's why they don't get Chapter 74 funding. So I would say that's the difference between the discrepancy between the cost per student. And, if your friend is troubled, she should come for a tour here and check out the amazing things that are happening. And then she can be thrilled that these tradespeople will be able to help her out at her home and in her businesses in the future. Does that answer your question? All right, great. I'll take any questions in the chat, or you can just pop open your microphone if you'd like to ask a question out loud. What is your philosophy with managing conflict? Examples would be helpful. So I think it really depends on who the conflict is with. If there is a conflict between staff members, my philosophy is that we have to listen to all sides objectively and support people so that they can continue to work together. We have to be quick. So if there's a conflict that we need to look into, we have to be quick. We have to address it in short time so that people can move on. I can give you an example of general conflicts that I've had to address. Sometimes there'll be a conflict with determination with credits, getting moved onto a salary scale. And as long as you're consistent and fair and follow the contract, things usually can be resolved pretty easily. Anna, can you give me an example of what type of conflict?
I don't have anything in mind, but it was just more of, thinking, trying to see what is your perspective, knowing what you know about Minuteman. You've mentioned rebuilding, and just curious about where, what are you coming in with, given what you may know about the school and what you made your hopes and aspirations to contribute to the school are.
So I see what you're saying. So if there is current conflict that still needs to be cleaned up, that's why my first priority would be to have individual sit downs with every single member of the administrative team, any teachers who would like to do that as well. So I can hear the stories and understand what still lingers. And once I know what that is, hopefully we can address them and move forward.
Yeah. And as I mentioned before, I think a huge piece, and of course I'm a parent, is the parent community. We are very invested. We're very, we are a partner. We're partners. I think most, I don't know anyone in the room here, but the folks I talk to and I see on Facebook and whatnot, we're very invested in making Minutemen successful. So there needs to be, the teachers are the first stop, but the parents must be in some fashion there as having an active role, and in different ways.
I completely agree. So something that in Situate we've done is seaside chats. My superintendent would go around the town. He'd bring me, or he would bring whoever, maybe the business manager, where we would go and have in-person conversations with any parent or community member who wanted to come and have a conversation. So that is something I could see myself doing. Probably not over Zoom all the time. I would much rather be at your local library or go to you to hear those things. And I'm not sure if your parent group meets online or not, but if that's a traveling thing, if that meets in other places, I would love to be there as well.
One last thing I'll add is that because we're 9 different towns, we're very creative about how to congregate. Sometimes we congregate across shops. If your kids are in the same shop, that's the group, or towns or sports. So there are very different intersections that we have priorities, right? So it's not one or two ways. It's whatever works for the family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway.
Thank you. Are there any students on here right now? If there are, I'd love to take a question from a student, or if any of you have a child in arm's reach and want to pull them over. You're welcome to ask a question out loud or in the chat. Courtney?
Hi, nice to meet you. Sorry, I'm fighting a bad cold, so I'm going to keep my camera off.
I'm not even worried. Thank you for asking a question.
I'm sorry, both of my students are up in their rooms, as they often are. I'm the parent of a senior and a freshman who are both in multimedia as of 2 weeks ago. We live in Arlington, and I'm very actively involved with the Minuteman Parent Association. So we're very glad to hear from you tonight. You mentioned wanting, you would love to hear questions from students. I guess I'm wondering how you see yourself interacting with the students, how much you see that as a part of your job as superintendent.
I do see that as a part of my job, and that's something that I miss tremendously. In my current district, we have 6 schools, which is very different than a 1-school district. I hope that I will be welcome in classrooms and be welcome to be a part of, the general operation of the school. Like I said, teaching is my passion, my favorite part of today. Not that you are not all wonderful, but I did get to have lunch with students today, and I got a tour of the building by 2 student ambassadors. Best part of my day, in hopes that I am selected. I took pictures with them so I can have pictures of the first students who I met at Minuteman that I'll frame on my wall. They were absolutely wonderful. And I hope that that I would be able and be welcome to be a part of the general, the general activities in the school, and not just someone doing the business behind the door.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
My pleasure. Anyone can add a question to the chat, or you can ask one out loud if you'd like. All right. Is it Elisa? Oh, you're on mute.
Hi there, how are you?
Hi. Good, good.
Good, good. I'm so happy to meet you here. So I just wanted to hear a little bit about partnerships that you have maybe fostered in other communities, or things that you've done in the past at your vocational school or in Situate, and sort of what thoughts you have about that as superintendent, and sort of listening to teachers and what they hope to have, as well as parents and students.
Sure. So at Southeastern, and then I actually did bring it over to Situate as well. One of my favorite partnerships that we established was with Bridgewater State University. Southeastern became a professional development school. So that means we would meet with the Dean of Education, the associate deans, and they would help us meet our school goals for the year. We also had a direct line to student teachers, to professional development opportunities, basically a pipeline to the college. And Bridgewater is known as a teacher, college pretty much. So we really did end up having a wonderful pipeline of teachers through that partnership. We had excellent professional development opportunities for our teachers. One thing that came of that as well is we established a CAGS cohort. So that's a post-baccalaureate certificate of advanced graduate study, where you can get your principal's license or superintendent's license if you go through with the PALS. And we established a low-cost cohort right at Southeastern Regional, and the professors came to us. It was awesome. And everyone who got through the program is actually working in some sort of leadership capacity at this point. So that's one of my favorite partnerships. When, even though they weren't taking more, when I went to Situate, we reestablished that same partnership so that Situate could be connected to that. And we have, I want to say, 5 student teachers this semester, 4 or 5, which is more than Situate has had in forever. And at Southeastern Regional pre-pandemic, there were some semesters we would have 10, which was awesome. It reminds me of Mass General, like a teaching hospital. We are a teaching school. So it doesn't sound right, but it was wonderful.
That's great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm going to look in the chat, see if we have. All right, if anyone wants to add anything to the chat or ask a question out loud, or give me a topic you would like me to talk about, if you want to drop that in the chat. Oh, thank you, Courtney.
You're welcome. I feel I love Minuteman. I really do. I adore Minuteman, and there's so many great things about it. But as in all situations in schools, occasionally there are, rough issues. And I am getting the sense that there's a couple of towns that are struggling financially and will have a tough go at town meeting with the assessments for this year. I listened into the school committee meeting last week. So I'm just wondering if if you were to attend some of those meetings with the school committee member for that member town, and there's some frustrations coming your way, how do you deal with potential conflicts like that in those situations. I know I run from it like crazy, but I am not trying to be superintendent. So, so yeah, if you could just kind of speak to that.
Yeah, so
the question.
I think that my job is to make sure that I always communicate the value of vocational education. It is not, it's not a comprehensive school. It's not a regular school. So every town benefits from every single graduate that we have from Minuteman. So we have to help sometimes other communities recognize their gain and their benefit from us producing plumbers and electricians and engineers. It's crucially important, and I'm a proponent of vocational education, and I've heard, for years stories like people will tell me, oh, if you go to a vocational school, you can't go to college. I'm literally a college professor, and I graduated from Greater New Bedford, Voc Tech in 1999. I did. So I will always be a proponent to make sure that the towns understand that we all benefit. And I know that's not the easiest thing to understand, but I will always be quick and clear when it comes to dispelling rumors too. So I'll give you another example. A friend of mine who's a third grade teacher at my kids' schools, she told me, I was telling her how I was pushing my kids to go to vocational school, and I love vocational schools. And she said, well, I'll never send my daughter to vocational school because it's $10,000 tuition. And I said, that is not true. That is just not. And she said, yep, it's true. $10,000. And I said, look, that's not true. Well, I heard it at the school committee. You did not. If they're saying we pay an assessment or you get this much through Chapter 74 funding, that's not you as a parent. Long story short, I took her camping with me, taught her all about vocational education. Her daughter is now a sophomore in dental and loves it, changed her whole life. That's that. We have to dispel those rumors because people have misconceptions. Because we get the good information because we're here, because we know and we live it. Not everybody is getting the same information. They're getting information in sound bites or a post on Facebook with half the information. So it will be, I feel very comfortable being a strong advocate of vocational education, not only in those town meetings, but hopefully also on Beacon Hill and in Massachusetts in general.
Excellent, thank you. And I'll just share with you that my son applied early decision to Drexel University and was admitted in December. So he to study photography, thanks to the wonderful exposure he got in multimedia. So it's a great school. So
Congratulations.
Thank you. And
That's
now I just
awesome.
have to keep him focused through graduation.
Oh, you can do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, can you discuss how vocational training has changed in recent history and what changes are coming or what forces are likely to require new changes in the coming years? Vocational training itself changes as industry changes. So I don't think there's an outside force changing vocational education. I think that there are some comprehensive schools who have gotten some Chapter 74 licenses for like a culinary or sometimes an automotive. And it is not the same as a 900-hour program at a vocational school. So I don't think that has changed particularly. What is coming? What are some things that are coming that we might have to face? The potential lottery being pushed by the state, that will be a challenge for sure, because it's important that students choose to go a vocational pathway. We want to make sure if somebody's using heavy machinery or if you, and the time that you spend, all of this time in your vocational program, we want it to be meaningful and suited for that child. So I think that's the biggest force that we have to be aware of. The toughest thing with vocational program, I would say, is programming is technology, because technology changes so quickly right now. And we can't predict the jobs that are going to exist 20 years from now. So we can't have a possible future vocational program for jobs we don't know. We have to make sure that we're creating opportunities for students in all programs to be able to have transferable skills that will be useful anywhere, like problem solving, basic technology skills, communication skills, technology, using technology for communication, so on and so forth. Does that answer your question? That was one from the chat. I have a question for the person who asked that question. Is there any particular force or change that you have heard might be coming that you're concerned about, that you'd like me to speak about specifically? I don't see that there. Okay. I think we have about 10 minutes left. If you have a question, you can ask the question out loud, or you're more than welcome to throw something in the chat. Oh, thank goodness. Thank you, Claudia.
Hi. I don't know, maybe if Courtney has something more urgent, but I was curious, like just sometimes it helps me understanding the personal history of someone. And in your case, as you told us that you were, you attended a vocational school, and then, even back then, and then ended up going to college and ended up working in education. So I was curious to learn about what inspired you. What was your workshop that you were attending?
Oh, I'd love to tell you about that. So I was in the data processing shop. So that was, I guess you would call it IT now, or computer programming. It's when computer networking was like new. So we did computers. And it helped me tremendously. By the time I was a senior, I had a wonderful co-op job. I could go to all sorts of different places and teach people how to use Microsoft Word. And it was amazing. I was like, I'm getting paid to do this. This is so fun. So that's was my experience there. And at New Bedford Voc, I was involved in all sorts of clubs and athletics, and the school itself was just, my brother went there too, and he is a rocket scientist, so I'm the dumb one. He was in architectural drafting, and he was a rocket scientist. Now he's a manager of rocket scientists. I can't, it's true. After, so I was going to do computers, and my English teacher, John Sullivan, who I love, said, Heidi, you're going to go to a 4-year school. You're going to go to Bridgewater. And I was like, why would I do that? I make $20 an hour teaching Microsoft Word. And he said, you're going to do that, and you're going to love it, and you're going to be an English teacher. I said, I don't know. Okay, let's try it out. And so I did. And of course, it was a huge advantage because of the vocational skills that I had. I had a wonderful experience at Bridgewater. I got a job right at Taunton High School from my student teaching. And I stayed on the New Bedford Voc's English Advisory Board while I was a college student. And then when I became a new teacher, and I did that, I want to say, until I went to Southeastern and I needed to do our advisory board. But my vocational teachers had such a tremendous impact on me. And I would say Skills USA, but VICA is what I did way back when. The process of competing and doing that, there's just nothing like it. There's nothing like it. And I hope that I would love for this to be where I spend the rest of my career. Other than that, I have no strong feelings about it, but I love it. All right, Courtney.
One last one. Claudia, that was a great question. Thank you. And I loved hearing your answer. I was just thinking about, as I'm sure you know, we have an open job posting for our permanent principal.
Mhm.
And wondering, I know that they would like for whoever is chosen to be superintendent be a part of that process, at least at the end if possible. So I'm wondering what you would look for in a principal at Minuteman.
So I was asked this question, I think earlier today, by the staff too. So I can't speak for myself right now because I would want to hear from parents. I would want to hear from the staff. I hope that we would create a candidate profile similar to the profile that was developed for the superintendent. We don't need an outside agency to develop one of those. We just need students and parents and staff members to share what they would like to see in a principal. And I would hope if I'm given the opportunity, I could help create a candidate profile that would drive the search.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Unless there is already a candidate okay, good. There's not. He said there's. All right. It is 5:55. Do you want me to hand it over to you for the?
Sure.
Do we?
Yeah. So again, we're going to wrap it up right now. I hope you had an opportunity to ask all your questions and get to know Ms. Driscoll a little better. Again, thank you very much for participating in this question and answer. It was very informative and very helpful. And again, it was a good opportunity also for the candidate to get a real feel for the Minuteman community. So we will continue along with the process, and I'm sure you'll be watching as well. So again, thank you very much for participating, and have a good evening.